Sunday Service Podcast. I'm your host, Sister Sally.
And I'm your host, Sister Stephanie.
And we're back in the Creative Canvas Studios. Thank God. I'm so happy we're here filming another episode.
Yeah, we're obsessed with this place.
Yeah.
Can we move in?
Literally, like we feel lucky to even like be recording here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I know we said this in the last episode, but if anyone has any needs for content creation or you have to rent a studio and you need to get some work done, definitely recommend booking a slot here at Creative Canvas Studios because it's just the best studio. Like, this is our first time being here at night, too.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, who knows how the lighting's going to be.
These studio lights
they have the most amazing lights. And if anything, it's better.
Better, yeah. Because then her lights are just like top notch. Seriously, like my boyfriend's our videographer, and he said these lights are better than the lights that he has right now. So
yeah, so the studio has everything that you could possibly need to shoot, and doesn't matter what time of day because the lighting in here is absolutely perfect. So
yeah, you could book like, you know, she's the owner. She's amazing. She's so sweet. She's very flexible with whatever times you need and want to shoot, and she kind of like gives you, you know, the freedom to like do what you want when you get in here. So it's great.
Yeah, definitely 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah,
Shout
absolutely.
out Creative Canvas Studios. Thank you for having us again for today's episode. Today is episode 2 of season 3.
Crazy.
And it's a Monday night. And this week is Valentine's Day. Wait, Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday.
So just like in the season of love that we're in right now, we always just want to convey like obviously messages to you guys that are going to be something that you can like walk away with and like feel good about. And I know we mentioned in the last episode that we wanted to talk a little bit more about like the topic of body dysmorphia and like our own experiences with that, and just like getting back to like loving yourself and self-love and self-worth, and all the things. So me and Sally were talking a little bit about it on the way here, and me and body dysmorphia go way back.
Way back.
Yeah, and I think that that's like where it starts for most females, and I'm only speaking for females because I am one, but like whoever's going through body dysmorphia, it doesn't discriminate. Like anyone could be, and you know, not only insecure about their body, but like literally like feel and think that you see something else, you know, like it's like an actual
thing. Like when you look in the mirror and you see something and everybody else is like, what? Like, no, you look great. And you literally believe in your head, like you guys are lying to me because I see myself in the mirror right now and I look like huge. That's that was my thing. I would be like, I look so big.
Well, I think like when I started getting my period is when I would like experience that, and still do to this day.
Yeah, like where you feel like an alien a couple days.
Yeah, but that, you know, now like when I can tie it back to like my cycle, like that's one thing. But then people actually just like feel that way about themselves, like no matter what.
Yeah.
I kind of, I guess, in some way have it under control because I know that when I'm like feeling that way or thinking that way, it's most likely because I'm about to get my period or I have my period or I just like whatever, feel gross because I'm getting it. But like when I was younger, I definitely did not like link the two together, and I just thought that like I didn't like the way that I looked or I didn't like my body or, you know. And I think nowadays it's definitely like so much worse because of social media and all the things.
I think like I know, I'm sure that people can relate to this. Like it started for me probably like in junior high, and when I would like go shopping with my friends, like we would go to like Hollister and Abercrombie, and like those were like the cool places to shop. Like I know it's not those places are still big for, you know, that age range, I feel like, but there was just like a stigma behind the people that worked there, and like your pants size, like
that was an actual thing.
Like it was like, yeah. And I just remember like hanging out with like, I had a lot of girls who were very skinny, like naturally beautiful bodies, and size 0 to 4 max, you know? Like, I don't even think I had friends that were like 4s really. Like, I was like always at least a 4, you know? And there were times in my life I got to 6, 8, 10. I even got up to 12 at one point in my life when I gained a bunch of weight. And so like going to those stores, I was like one of the bigger sizes, but I really wanted like Abercrombie and Hollister jeans. Like it was a thing to have the like pattern on the pocket. Like you were like cool if you wore those, you know? And I like was embarrassed trying on pants because I had to ask for the bigger sizes and I was shopping with my friends, you know? And they were all asking for the small sizes, you know? And so I just can remember it going back to that and like thinking like, oh my God, I'm like gigantic, even though I was wearing like a size 6, which is not huge at all. Like at all. Like that's actually very slim, you know? And I was like, oh my God, like I am so embarrassed. And like, I can just relate that back to that point in my life and wanting to fit in so bad that like, I think I started to like really believe that I was a lot bigger than I actually was. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not skinny unless I get to a size 2.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, shit was also way different than to like, you know, I think about myself and like as you're speaking, I'm trying to like remember the first time I ever like compared my body to anyone else. And this is like so funny to even say this, but I feel like, or actually no, this has to be it. When I remember I must have been like 9 or 10 years old and I was watching like Miley Cyrus's Hannah Montana.
yes.
And like comparing my legs to hers, like what? I was just a kid. I was
Or like
comparing
Lizzie
my legs, like that's
McGuire.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever did that before then. And obviously that's a very young age, but like that just goes to show like how early it starts, you know? And imagine having access to what we have access to now.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
That sounds really fucking scary. You know, you have to consider that, or, you know, I consider that at this point in my life because I'm also considering having kids. You know what I mean? So it's like, think about where we're at as like a society and then everything that you experienced in your life and seemingly, you know, every girl or anyone that we've come across, like, you know, we can all relate to each other in this way and with this topic. But imagine how much worse it's going to be.
Yeah, no, and it's terrifying to think about because we live in a world where plastic surgery is so normal, you know, and people are altering their actual
and
bodies.
The apps and and the face editing and all of the things. So it's like you just are submerged in that and thinking all of that's real and normal and that what we should be doing. And
because like you're walking around, even if you're like walking around in like a normal place like the mall, like the amount of people now like that are like have done something to themselves is
it's
like
so normalized,
it's very
now.
normal. So then if you're imagine like growing up as like a preteen girl, you're like that without you even really noticing it, it's like filling your brain.
Yeah, it's almost like what you know is normal.
Yeah, they're like everybody looks like that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like why don't I look like that? Now I need to look like that.
Right. Well, we were saying this before where like, you know, obviously because we have whatever enhancements we have and all these people that we know too, it's not to say that that just because like you have things done like doesn't mean that didn't come from like an insecure place.
Absolutely.
You know, or that it's not anymore. Just because people have their boobs done or Botox and lip filler, like doesn't mean that they're like completely solve their problems because they have lip filler, you know? Everyone has like their things that they nitpick about themselves, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm afraid of getting older because like ever since I've like hit 30, like I was like, oh my gosh, like honestly, I was like on a high when I hit 30. I was like, wow, like 30 and flirty and thriving. Like literally like 30 was the new 20 is the new 20.
It is, I feel
like. The new 20. But like that feeling of like, wow, I look good. I like love myself. Like I like.
Well, I feel like at our age group, we start to realize that we are aging and we are getting older. So like, you know.
But I'm like obsessed with like
anti-aging.
Like people tell me my skin looks like so good. Like it's like a 20 4-year-olds. Like my esthetician tells me it all the time.
music
And
to
I'm
your
like,
ears.
I need this to stay like this forever.
Well, I think knowing that there's things accessible to us to like do that, like, and it's
Yeah.
possible to like kind of like age in reverse or at least look younger than like the generations before us at our age, because there's things that are available to kind of like stall the process or at least just make us look better during it. And we're all for all that stuff, but I guess it's all of this whole pool. It's literally like a black hole that you enter once like you get into this world of like altering anything at all, whether it be online or in person. Like it's all stems from some type of like mental illness.
Yeah. And like super insecurities like
Yeah.
that we're all facing because of the world that we live in. And like, it's just the reality of it. And
There's so many different extremes
Yeah.
too, like some people will go ahead and like literally change their sex. There's people that will get a BBL. There's people that will just get face fillers like us, like they're all different levels of like being fucking mentally insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As much as, we do it. I'm not saying like, we're mentally insane for getting that shit done. But like when you really think about it,
Yeah.
to,
I think
to go to different levels to like alter yourself at all.
Yeah, like
It's
you
crazy.
have it's a daily battle for sure. Like for me, every time I look in the mirror, like it's a daily struggle for me to like remind myself like you don't have to look like everybody else. Like it's okay that you don't have a BBL. Like I'm telling you, I'll be so
You feel
honest.
like still you feel that way?
Sometimes, yeah. Like I used to think that way. I mean, like just like the type of clientele I work with, like everybody has like stuff done and like they all are super beautiful. They're super like popping on Instagram and TikTok. They're, big influencers or celebrities. So like I'm around it a lot. So it's hard not to let my mind slip to that, So I have to like really remind myself that like I don't need to
do
look like
that.
that.
Yeah,
Even though like I'll be like, oh, like, in my brain immediately it starts like when I see them, oh, she looks so good. Like her waist is so small.
Comparison
is like
literally the thief of joy.
And then when I'm sitting there doing hair over somebody who has all this done, like I'm like starting to look at myself then. And I start to stare at myself.
Right. And that's an in-person thing that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Like for most people it's all online and we're
Yeah.
seeing that. Imagine what that's subconsciously doing to your brain, even if you're just like mindlessly scrolling. Like you think this shit is normal, Or like that it's so easy to just change yourself or change something that you don't like. I would say, because we were first talking about how this affected us when we were younger, but like now in today's world, and obviously all of these things like, living in Miami is a factor,
Yeah,
and
it is.
social media is a factor, and whatever, your own internal dialogue like is a factor because like how we talk to ourselves matters and, whatever. But I think back to like when I was like 22, where this was like really a problem for me, where I had really bad body dysmorphia, and I was signed with two modeling agencies in New York City, and there were a lot of good things that came out of that, and I did have like a overall nice experience, like being a young petite model in New York City. But overall, I think it was more damaging than it was good. And I just remember like going to castings, and there would be sometimes like you would go to a casting that like 3 people get casted for, and 250 girls would show up to this casting. So one, it felt like a waste of time. And 2, you're like in a line with people who, especially me, especially like when I started too, petite models weren't really a thing. Like it just became a thing. So I get booked for like more like hand modeling and foot modeling, and I'm like, but I'm a whole person, you know what I mean? Like just because I'm small, you're gonna use me for like my hands and feet. Like, I wanted to book the big jobs, and once in a while I would like a makeup focused job, but I wanted to book like, jobs that other girls that I thought, why are we comparing anything? Like, I have as much of a chance as anyone else. But I remember being online during multiple castings, not just one, and heavily comparing myself to the people that were around me and the ones that would probably get casted for these jobs. And like literally running to the bathroom or going in my car after a casting and like bawling my fucking eyes out because I felt like just small. I felt not good. I felt small. I felt ugly. I felt not it. I didn't like my body. I didn't like this. I hated my arms. And that spiraled for a couple years, I think, after that. And then I actually like had a period where I put on a little bit of weight too. And then I think that just like heightens anything that you're already dealing with. So there was one point where maybe like 2 years after that where it just got really bad. And I think that we're so impressionable in that way in our early 20s, you know, like we're becoming women and like our bodies are changing and like you gain weight, you lose weight, like things are changing. And I had a really hard time with that. Yeah. And I remember like it actually becoming a problem to the point where I was like, no, I gained so much weight that the only way for me to ever be skinny again is if I get lipo. So I had my mind made up on lipoing the back of my arms. And then 2 years after that, I got in the best shape of my life all by myself in the gym. And that totally changed just like my mindset and the way that I like valued myself, taught me so much. And I was able to kind of like kill that like monster, you know, like the self-deprecating body dysmorphia monster that I had, and like gain control over it and realize that like, oh, I can control my body to be a certain way. Yeah. You just gotta like, I think work for it.
Yeah. You just have to go through those like.
That teaches you something toxic, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Almost like a toxic relationship with yourself. Yeah. To heal and come out of it. Yeah. You have to do the work to like 100%.
Getting in shape and like taking control of my life definitely taught me a lot more than just like getting in shape and like learning how to. It made me respect myself ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that makes you stop talking to yourself in those negative ways. Like when I saw myself in the mirror, I wasn't like picking myself apart and like shitting on my arms or the way that my legs were. Like that's crazy.
I mean, I went through a period of time after there was like 2 periods of life where I gained weight. And it was mostly from drinking, to be honest. Like
just like an unhealthy lifestyle.
Just unhealthy, partying a lot. And like it was like right after I turned 21, I like went crazy and like alcohol all the time. And then I went into a similar like fitness journey afterwards.
Yeah, I remember you told me about that.
And I wasn't modeling like you, but like I started to go into fitness competitions.
Sometimes those could even be more toxic and more like...
And that's where I became even worse on myself, which I was like trying to like get healthy and get the body I liked, but I started to critique myself even more.
People take it to different extremes and that's,
And I was comparing myself again. This is something I struggled with for a long time, was comparing myself, and sometimes I still do, to others. But I like was comparing myself to the girls I was training with, and... Some of them were MMA fighters. Some of them were just competing in strongman competitions like me or like CrossFit or whatever. But every single one of them was in lightweight. I was middleweight. I just like, I was born a little bit thicker and curvier than they were, you know? And I don't think I ended up loving that part of me, like this, in the sense of like being a little bit thicker, curvier girl and not being petite, you know? I'm not like big, but I was in that middle weight, you know, and I like could not grasp that. I was like, no way, no, I can be lightweight. Like, why can't I be lightweight? Like, and I started doing like crazy stuff, like making myself throw up after I would eat a piece of pizza, because I was wanting to somehow get down to that other weight class so I could compete with those girls. And, you know, they were lifting lighter weights. I had to train for middleweight class, meaning I had to lift heavier. And like, I was like on the lower end of middleweight. So it fucked with my brain so bad that like, cause I was like 5 pounds away from lightweight. I'm like, why can't I lose 5 pounds? Why? Cause I was already at my smallest, but like, and I was healthy. I looked good. I looked great. Like my butt was nice. Even my boobs look good.
Yeah, it's hard to look back at that time thinking like, how did I not just like worship my body?
I look back, I'm like, I look so good. Like, how could I be like that?
Yeah.
And I wanted to get on illegal supplements. Because all the girls I was training around were on illegal supplements. There's only a couple natural girls.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should do that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it was vicious.
Well, it's crazy the things that you would even start to consider when your mind is working that way. You're like desperate. You're like, of course I'll become bulimic, no problem.
Yeah.
Of course I'll be anorexic
and I didn't
starve
think
myself
I
or
was
whatever.
bulimic. I thought I was just
Right.
when I would eat the piece of pizza.
Right.
I would just throw that up so I didn't get the calories. Yes, bitch, you're bulimic when you fucking do that.
Right.
You know, like that's not okay.
It's part of like just being in denial about that, you know?
And then I would
I think bulimia and doing that also like makes you feel like you have some type of control over whatever the
you're
problem
like,
is.
okay, I tasted the pizza, but I got rid of it. So
oh my God,
good.
it's such a crazy like way to justify anything.
It's
but like
wild.
you will do that when you're like in that really unhealthy mindset. And I feel like so many people I know, like so many different people are popping into my head right now as we talk about and unravel this topic. But so many people I know dealt with this shit to whatever magnitude. Like there's so many different extremes. The way you experienced it is different than the way that I experienced it, but we both experienced that shit.
I think all of us have.
And still, listen, just because maybe I'm at a place in my life where like I'm not so bad in that way anymore doesn't mean like something else might change and like ignite that again. You know what I mean? Like everything is constantly changing. And so are we, and so are our bodies. Who knows if I get pregnant one day and like, you know, gain a bunch of weight, am I going to be able to like handle that? And I think that that's why just like doing the type of work and like just like having these conversations and stuff like prepare you for when these things in life happen and how to handle them.
I think like I mean, I need to be better about this, but I've heard advice from other people too that they love giving themselves like affirmations in the mirror. Like I don't do that enough, but I have before. I've actually like taken pictures of myself like in my underwear or whatever, just like to like appreciate my own body. Like, you know, like I am like, wow, you look good. Like actually, why are you like tripping? Because that photo is fire. You know what I mean? Like doing stuff like that for yourself to like remind yourself. Like that's why we started shooting again and doing stuff like that. Like this is stuff
it makes
that
you feel good.
You need to feel, you need to do for whatever you need to do for yourself. Like I need to do that for myself. I've realized now. I didn't think, I was always like, oh, I'm not a model. I'm not in front of the camera person. I'm a behind the camera person. But now
it makes you feel good.
I feel so much better about myself when I do it, you know? Like I am like, wow, like I look good, you know? I don't have to be this big to look good, you know?
Yeah, it's nice too when you have like a relationship where the person that you're with loves you for you. You know what I mean?
That's so important
and they'll be the first person to talk you out of doing some crazy shit like that. You know what I mean? Because they remind you, and that's how a relationship should be. You know, the person that you're with reminds you like you're perfect the way that you are and the way that you were made. And, you know, you're perfect no matter what you've done or you want to do to your body. Again, like, I don't know how clear I have to, like, make this just in general, but, like, we support people doing whatever they need to do to feel better about themselves. Clearly, like, we do that for ourselves. And, like, I'm, like, the biggest fan of anyone doing anything that's going to make you feel good. So that's, like, bottom line. But it does get a little dicey, and it gets to a certain point where it's like not okay, you know, like it's let's slow down. You're being a little bit nuts and hard on yourself, you know, like enough.
I agree. I think there's just like a little bit of a fine line. I know there is a fine line with Sally. Like she's got this fine line where I can be very healthy and on top of it, and then I can steer towards a little bit of like too obsessive and like, oh my God, I'm like
those
doing
times,
this in the
I
mirror.
swear those times only really happen to me now in my adult life, and I've grown to really love myself in my older age, and I think that's something that's really beautiful about getting older is just like knowing yourself more and respecting yourself more. At least, you know, I want that for everyone. But why did I just cut you off? Oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. What the hell was I just saying? What were you just saying that I
was
had
saying
to
that there's like a fine line with, you know, being happy where you are and then obsessing over.
Oh yeah, no, the only time that I really get like that is around my period where I'm like nitpicking and I'm like, oh my God, you look like a whale today. But in my head, I'm like, shut the fuck up. You know,
Yeah.
like you were fine yesterday. Your body doesn't change overnight. Like get real, you know?
I mean, I gained 8 pounds on my period.
Yeah, 5 to 8 pounds,
So
girl. On a shorty
I always
like
tell
me.
myself, you know what, bitch? Don't get on the scale and don't take anything too seriously right now.
But when you're on your period and say, I'm not, I'll be the first to remind you, bitch, it's just
Yes.
water, like
Yeah.
relax, you're being crazy.
Yeah.
But then when it happens to me too, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you need people to remind you.
you always
that
say
you're
you
nuts.
look like an alien.
Yeah.
You're like, I
I'm
feel like
I
an
don't
alien.
recognize myself.
Yeah. It's like you're like looking at in the mirror and you don't see yourself.
I think a lot of you guys can probably relate to us though in that way where like when I don't know if it's like when I'm ovulating or when I'm on my period or whatever the hell the cycle is.
I think it's all of them.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, we only get 3 days out of the month where we feel good, but like I literally like some days just won't, I don't know who she is in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, beep boop, bop bop, like what the fuck? Who are you?
I know. I'm like, my eyes become like sunken in from how tired I feel.
Like a raccoon.
And I look like a raccoon, but nobody else thinks I do.
Right. I'm like, you look
think I do.
gorgeous.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I can't fit into any of my clothes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You just feel like you can because you feel so like bloated.
Oh my
and,
God.
like,
Yeah, I totally know that feeling.
But you know, it's
That's also to say, yeah, exactly. It never ends, you know,
Never
like,
ending.
And I think it's part of being a woman, but again, body dysmorphia and having like these mental tug of wars with yourself like can happen to anyone, and it does happen to everyone. You know, we're all like our own biggest critics in whatever way on the list you are to yourself. I'm sure 99.9 people take the trophy of being their own worst critic. No one else is looking at you that way. You are perfect in my eyes. You know?
Yeah.
When I hear you say shit, I want to backhand you real quick. I'm like,
I
that's
know.
crazy. Do not talk about my friend like that.
I know, and it's like it's so silly too because I realize even in the midst of my sentences sometimes I'm like, what?
You're like, bitch, shut up.
What am
Get
I
real.
saying?
We are blessed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
blessed for reasons way bigger than just looking good or feeling good. Like we have legs, we have arms, we are capable, willing, and able, and everything is great. And we have no reason to hate on ourselves and have body dysmorphia and mental illness.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know. And whatever we have to do to make sure that we can like stay sane and help each other stay sane.
Yeah.
Like get you friends like we have in each other to remind you like you sound stupid, you look amazing, and like,
And if anyone is heightening that in your life and that feeling that of not feeling good,
Cut
like
'em.
even for me, it was the my agencies and
Yeah.
like and that whole life of like being a model in New York City, like it literally was damaging, and it was like I said, more bad than good. It made me feel really not good about myself.
Yep.
I spent a lot of nights like crying and like feeling just not good, and that had to be cut out of my life.
Yep. Same with the competing and weightlifting for me.
Right.
I stopped.
If it affects you in a negative way or people are not making you feel good, like the people at these castings would literally like laugh in my face. And I was like,
Yeah,
what are you laughing at?
and that's horrible. That
Horrible.
there's a whole industry designed around
yeah,
that.
and so many girls are experiencing that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that that was even like part of my life, because I would not deal with shit like that now. Anyone or anything making me feel not good about myself has got yet to go.
Yep.
So that's just, something we want to keep
Reiterating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep reiterating and just keep open for conversation in this podcast, because we're all dealing with very similar things, and we just want to remind you guys of that. Kind of like you're just like sitting on the couch with us and just pouring your heart out like we would do on a normal Monday night together without all of these cameras and stuff. But we're happy you guys got to join us for this episode. I know it was a quick one, but it was a good one. Some good stuff here today. We love you so much, and we'll see you next week on the Sunday Service Podcast.